Welcome back, Propane Fitness Podcast. I am here with a very special guest today, Aanghel. He has been my coach for the last 18 months, last 2 years. And really, I was drawn to his YouTube channel, just basically stumbling across him and seeing how complete his body, mind, spirit approach is. He's probably one of the most open-minded people that I've met in terms of taking any of these wild claims that you see online with regards to cold showers, Nofap, meditation, carnivore diet, any of that stuff. You name it, he is happy to just dive in, try it properly. And he's basically a psychonaut explorer of the mind and body. And it's been an absolute pleasure to finally have him on the podcast. Aanghel, hello.
Hey.
Thank you for coming on today.
Of course, bro.
So, for people that haven't heard of you, could you give us a quick overview of what's led you up to this point and setting up this channel and the kind of journeys that you've been through so far?
I think it was just a process of waking up. You know, like we all go through social conditioning, and we all go pretty much through everything, like nature nurture type thing, you know. And you get to a point where you kind of wake up and you're like, yo, I have to change some things. Like, I woke up one day and I was like, I don't like who I am. I don't like what I do. I don't like the life that I live. So I had to do something.
This is an interesting juncture in a lot of people's lives, because I think there are many people that will hit that point of like, oh shit, I'm kind of going the wrong way in my life and I don't like it, but I'm just going to medicate it and I'm just going to continue to layer on new ways of distracting myself so that I don't have to face that. And then further down the line, it just gets worse and worse. So I think being able to make that shift early on is so important.
Yeah, but it wasn't that easy of a shift. You see, because like it was my sister's baby daddy who kind of like woke me up, and it was a rude awakening because we used to stay at my mom's old house, and we would go outside every night and either go for a run or we would go walk the dogs. And every time we would do this, we would smoke beforehand. So one time we was walking the dogs and we were ridiculously high, and then he just stopped me out of nowhere. And he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "What do you mean? What am I doing? I'm with you, bro. Like, I'm walking these damn dogs." And then he was like, "No, what are you doing in your life?" And I was like, "I mean, I'm going to school. I'm working at a job." At the time, I was working at this one job for like a few years, right? So I was kind of like in this rhythm. I was at school. I was going on this job. Had a relationship with this girl for a few years now, bro. Like everything was constant and everything had been like the same for like a few years now. And he's like, "Bro, do you understand what's going on in your life?" And like to make a long story short, he basically showed me the impermanence of life and how like we could literally die at any point. And what's the point of living in this rhythm, living in this wheel that's just going in the same thing over and over again. And he's like, "Bro, like in life, you only remember the highs and the lows." And then he told me, he's like, "Bro, look back a few years. Tell me what you remember." And I only remember like the best points and the worst points. Everything else was like blurred. And that's, bro, that the fact that like 3 years had passed, but for some reason I could only remember like a handful of events blew my fucking mind.
Most of the time, it's just this daily monotony of just doing the same boring stuff and being comfortable in the relationship and in the job.
Exactly.
100%, man. It's funny because today is quite a big day for me as well. Quite symbolic in that I qualified as a doctor this morning.
Hey!
Thanks, man. I'm over the moon about it. But it very much comes in with what you're saying here, which is like, I was working in finance in a job that just was not stimulating, was not in line with what I felt like should be my mission, my purpose in life. But, you know, the money's good and you think, okay, like I could maybe just about sort of keep myself chugging along doing this, but then you look ahead and you think, in 10 years' time, I'm going to be in a real crisis of soul at this point. And it was a chapter in a book by a guy called David Dada, who, in The Way of the Superior Man. Great book, yeah. So the chapter was basically talking about how you have layers of purpose in your life that fall away like layers of an onion. And if you are not living in alignment with your purpose, you will never be able to be authentic, because people will always sense that you're not being authentic with yourself, and therefore your wife won't trust you, your family won't trust you, people around you won't quite, they'll see that something's not quite right with you because you're not living in alignment with that purpose. And so that, alongside some other things, I was like, right, I'm going to have to make a change now. And so that change started 7-8 years ago, and it's finally come to a point of the direction changing. So yeah, I can't imagine what it would be like having tried to continue the previous path.
Mm-hmm. It's facts, man.
Yeah. So you had this moment of like being kind of slapped into awareness by your sister's baby daddy, as you said, who was like, you only noticed the highs and lows. What was then the process moving forward from there?
Denial, man. It was denial, because he had told me that, and it's like, bro, you're in the Matrix, and you finally woke up. It's like you were given this red pill, it was shoved down your throat, and now that you see everything, like, just for a brief glimpse, you're like, oh fuck, like I don't want this, I don't like this. Like, you're trying to go back to sleep, you're trying to go back into this dream.
You can't.
But it's like, you can't, man. As soon as you take the red pill, you're fucking woke, bro. Like, can't do anything about it. And man, like, I remember like being with this girl, and I'm just like, fuck, like I'm wasting my time. We're over here watching Netflix. I'm like, I know damn well that I could do something better right now. I know I'm not gonna remember this. And it's scary, man. It's scary when you do something and you're like, yo, this is time that I'm not gonna get back. You know, and of course, you don't want to look at it as like, oh, you can't be so critical over your time and shit like that. Like, sometimes it's all right to do little things like that. And that's true. It's all right. But, like, when you're doing that all the time and you realize, like, yo, fuck, like, I could really use this time to do something, to really experience something where I look back and I'm like, yo, like, I'm glad I did that. I can't believe I did that. You know what I mean? Like, let's say going skydiving, for instance. It's shit like that. But man, it was just a huge denial process, and slowly but surely, like, you know, the universe took its role, and it just kind of started making shit happen for me, and I was like, all right, fuck, I gotta do something.
So did it feel like you submitted yourself to this change, or was it more that it was kind of dragging you through the weeds? It
was dragging me through it. I never submitted, bro. I don't think I submitted until like I got deep into spirituality, into like meditation and stuff like that. But there came a time where like I stopped submitting, and I actually found a way to better manifest and better like work with the universe versus just submitting and just like letting the universe only do its thing. You know what I mean? So it's like being in a relationship, and then you say, oh, well, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to let the other person do everything. And instead of doing that, now it's like, okay, well, I'm doing things and the universe is doing things and we're working together.
I see. That's interesting. Yeah. And like, I think that's kind of the overarching theme, which is that, and you've talked about in some of your videos about kind of, you've had quite a rough past in some cases. And this is like the difference between being ragged around by your own whims and your own kind of animalistic desires and all of that stuff on one hand, and just kind of being stuck in the monotony and comfortable relationships and all that stuff, compared to seeing that, having that pill, as you said, and then suddenly being like, right, this is now actually something that I can't look back on. I can't turn back to, because it's so nauseatingly impermanent. And if I was to do that, I'd just be constantly aware of how fleeting everything is and how I'm just pissing my life away. So I suppose at that point it didn't give you a choice, and then it's like,
Not at all,
the pain
man.
of staying the same is so great that I've got to start moving forward and stepping out of this world.
Pretty much.
So there's a few experiences that you mentioned as well about, like, that have brought you more into your body, and I think this is certainly palpable with the way that if you look at, so anyone who hasn't seen Aangel's channel, if you have a look at back on like some of the really old videos that he's done, there's a different, almost like a different body identity that he expresses. I'm sure you'd agree with this, man, where like from years ago, you were very much like your muscular tension patterns were different. Your voice was higher. You were more fidgety and more kind of angsty and so on. And I think over the years, it looks like things have dropped you further into your body, and you've become a lot more still. And that's the overwhelming presence that seems to come across now. And people are always kind of commenting on this as well on the on the YouTube comments too. Can you talk to us a bit about that process?
Yeah, so if we were to talk about my story and how like I ended up with the high pitched voice and like the tension and all that stuff in my body, it's, instead of getting like real deep into it, you know, I had a rough childhood, bro. Like I had my parents were divorced. My mom, she was pretty much unemployed almost until like I was 16 or 17. And she was with this man that was staying at the house for like 8 to 9 years. And, but this man was like the epitome of like a terrible human being, right? Because I was maybe like 8 or 9 years old, and this man abused me physically, mentally, emotionally for, bro, almost 8 to 10 years, man. Like it was a very tough point in my life. So it's like when you go through that shit, you start to hold all these this trauma. You start to have these neurotic holding patterns in your body. Like, bro, I would get to the point, like I would be in my house, right? And then anytime like I would hear the garage open, like I was conditioned to instantly feel fear and just like start looking around and shit, like all nervous as soon as I started to hear that garage open, because I already knew what was coming.
It's horrendous. It's like I've heard Kit Lachlan talk about kind of Wilhelm Reich's work about how we create character armor as our forms of muscular holding patterns and forms of tension, the patterns of tension we have in our body from in response to our environment. And for you to have been exposed to a dick bag, essentially someone who's done that to you at a young age, when you haven't got any of the defenses. There's, you know, when you see a child, they're totally open to the world because they haven't developed those patterns of tension and defensiveness that protect them really from other people's insult. And so when you're a kid, I guess that's why like abusing a kid is so it's so harmful, so damaging long term, because they didn't have that defense up to be able to protect against it, and then it really impacts on their identity. And
as a kid too, you know, it's you're so centered into your life that like you see everything and you kind of you play the victim role, and it's like you just do it. You don't. It's not like you can tell a kid, oh, stop being a victim, stop playing the victim role. Like it's almost impossible for a kid not to play the victim role, because for them it's like this is all they know so far, and like their world is so small, and they truly are like the center of their world. So it's like when something begins to go wrong, they feel like, oh man, like it's my fault, and they start playing the huge victim card. And it's weird, bro. If most people would have realized this, they would have realized that, yo, the victim card that they're playing right now is a result of like from childhood. Like if you could just break free from that shit.
but I imagine most people don't. Like that's it. It's been cemented as what they think is their identity, and then they're stuck with it for life.
Exactly.
And it plays out in more and more kind of sophisticated adult ways, but there's still the fundamental thread of like being a victim in that sense, or being, you know, adopting a role that was put on them from a young age. And I think as we start to cement and get older, I'd imagine it. Well, no, it's harder to break those patterns.
It is, man. It's like I told you. It's when I had that awakening. It dragged me the fuck on because I didn't want to change. I didn't want to like do anything differently. Like, and bro, I was only like 19 at the time, so it's like I didn't want to change. Imagine someone who's like in their 30s or 40s, bro. Even worse.
Too much. They've set up so much of their life around what their identity is that it would almost rattle too much around them to change, to shift.
Exactly. It's like you literally have to kill who you are to become who you really are. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, that was a painful process.
You damn right, boy. But aside from that, bro, when I had gone through all this shit, like I started, you know, I was waking up and I was realizing, oh, fuck, like why do I act this way? Why do I react in a certain way? Why am I so anxious and nervous when I'm around people? Why am I speaking from such a high place? Why am I speaking from my throat? Why am I losing my breath when I'm speaking? Why am I speaking as if like I'm trying to get my point across as quick as possible? And then it's just like it started hitting me like, oh, it's my childhood. It's all the shit that I've been through. And then I started like looking up ways, and you know, all this shit on Google, YouTube. Everyone talks about like going to a psychologist. Then you have the back then I wasn't really into all the spirituality stuff, so you have the new age people saying, oh, you need to let go, you need to open your heart. And like I used to hear this shit and I used to laugh like, open my heart, the hell are you talking about? But it just got to a point where I was like, all right, man, I got to do something. Then I came across Elliot Holz's videos, and this man was on some other shit. Like I fucking loved it, bro. I loved the fact that he was just so open, so out there.
He's so uninhibited. I remember that one video when it came out and it went viral because people were like, it split people down the middle. People were like, whoa, either Elliot Holz has lost the plot, or like...
You talking about the bioenergetic one?
Yeah, when he's going like...
Yeah, bro, I saw that shit. I'm like, this guy's on to something. Bro, yeah. It's always the people who are willing to make a fool of themselves they're the ones that are on to something, bro.
100%.
I'm telling you right now, bro. And I saw that shit, and then like I started looking deeper into it, and that's when I found Primal Scream Therapy. And then I remember, bro, the first time that I did the Primal Scream Therapy, I literally just started imagining all the things that was happening in my childhood, all the anger, all the frustration, all the oppression that happened. And like I felt all these emotions begin to rise, and like what I did is I started yelling as loud as I could, and I let myself yell however loud as I wanted, however long as I wanted, however many times as I wanted, bro. I let myself swing my arms in the air. I let myself jump up and down. I let myself throw myself to the ground, throw anything around me and shit like that, bro. And the effect of doing this shit was so cathartic, and it was so releasing that as soon as I was done, it's like I've never felt this peace, bro. I felt this peace in my body, in my mind, in my spirit, everything. I was just like, holy shit, like this is the next level. No, that's when I knew. I was like, all right, this is how I should feel, not how I was feeling prior. And then that's when I, started to go deeper and deeper into my body, to where my voice became deeper. I became more calm. My thoughts became more still. And just my energy overall is just very grounded and a present energy.
See, I find this so fascinating, and this is exactly what has made me want to chat to you on the podcast and really hire you as a coach as well, which is like there's this moment of just vomiting of all of the stored up emotion, this kind of this purge. And I think there'll be a lot of people listening who will certainly relate with your experiences. Maybe they've gone through, maybe they haven't had such a rough past, maybe they have, maybe it's been worse, but whatever it is, there's been experiences in their past that have created forms of their identity that maybe they've been struggling with or trying to let go of. And I think up until a few years ago, I was very much always trying to solve these problems from the neck up, dealing with them at the thought level. And there is only so much that you can really untangle with thought. You're just like fighting fire with fire, isn't it? And so going through, my solution to things is always like, oh, can I find a book on this? Can I find a study on this? Can I meditate more? It's always stuff that's done from the head up, and I think in a lot of cases, it doesn't touch the huge well of stored emotion that is our bodies. And so to be able to see that there are practices and there are things that you can do that really start to access all of this stuff that's going on beneath is so fascinating.
Ain't it?
So
yeah.
there's been some, the stuff that you've explored, it's been obviously, so there's the bioenergetic stuff, there's the primal screen therapy. These are much kind of dealing with muscular tension patterns. You've also done a wide range of meditation styles, of dietary approaches, pineal gland experiment stuff, the cold showers, Nofap. Can you talk to us a bit about some of these modalities and how they've fitted in with this journey?
Hey, bro, which one you want me to start with?
Oh, okay. I suppose should we go in order of chronology? So, which one hit you first? Which one were you most?
So meditation hit me first. Yeah. So when I was doing the meditation, it was hard to get into at first because, like I said, I wasn't into everything that they were talking about, and I was doing the guided meditation. But once I got into it, I started feeling that calmness and that grounded, kind of very similar to what I had experienced when I did the primal screen therapy. I was like, okay, well, this is something to add into the mix. All right. But like any good thing, too much of it is never a good thing. Right. So my thing is anytime that I find something that's beneficial in the past, I would just go overboard and I would just overdo it. If I found out that, when I first started working out, it was protein's good for you. And bro, I'm over here downing 6 protein shakes a day and shit like that, thinking that it's actually benefiting me. Little did I know. All right.
Oh man, I 100% can relate with that. And I think a lot of the problem, a lot of my own tension patterns, I think, over the years have been from pounding the lifting, doing basically training as a powerlifter for years, training the same 3 movements within the same rep range, basically lots of repetitive strain, the same muscles get tight, and then sitting over a desk, of course all of the flexors in the body are going to get tight, and then it becomes quite difficult to unload that because you've then got years of volume that you've trained with in those specific patterns to undo. And you see bodybuilders as well that sometimes if they, based on the way that they've trained, they can be so wound up that they don't really move in a normal way. You see them walk and everything's tethered to each other, and they can't, there's no free flowing movement anymore. And I'm sure that's happening energetically as well. They're breathing.
It makes it even worse if they take steroids. Yeah.
So the resting tension, resting tone in the muscles already worsened when they're on steroids, and then it's to undo that just is undoing a big knot.
So, bro, before I continue, I want to ask you something. With the powerlifting and everything like that, do you feel like it's a myth, this whole thing of you can't work the same movement for too long or else the body adapts?
I think you just have to rotate some of the variables at each stage. And with powerlifting, obviously, you can't deviate too far away from the competition lifts, and so the variables that do have to change need to be weight, sets, reps, time, volume, rest, periodization. Those kind of things can then be adjusted.
But the movement pattern itself, you can continue to do the same movement pattern without anything negative occurring.
Yeah, I mean, I think something negative. I mean, for me, like I blew my disc, so I think that's definitely something negative occurring. But yeah, I think like if you're sensible, if you avoid the pain triggers, listen to your body a bit more than I did, then you can certainly squeeze more out of those movements. But I certainly don't see, I don't see why we shouldn't be rotating even like the width of the grip, or like doing front squats for a while rather than back squats, sumo deadlift, conventional.
Heard that, man. Heard that. All right, so meditation. The next thing on the list was cold showers. I thought those were beautiful, man. Once I got in a cold shower, it was like the euphoric feeling that I would feel after taking a cold shower. It was like a high, man. I can't even explain it. The next thing on the list, I want to say, was spending more time in nature. So I would make it a priority to at least go outside every single day for at least an hour. And that had profound effects, bro. Like, because you don't realize like how much we were designed to be in nature. Like, we are animals, bro. We may have clothes, we may be smart, able to make shit like this, live in houses and all this stuff. We drive cars, bro. We're still animals by nature, and it's like all animals are in nature. You don't see an animal pimped out in a fucking mansion with a Lamborghini and shit like that.
So
you see them out there running around.
That we're operating these bits of hardware that are millions of years old, and yet, because we think that we know better, because in the last couple of 100 years we've made all this stuff that allows us to not be outside much, and our bodies are kind of rebelling against that, and they're saying, look, I just want to be outside. I want to change my temperature. I want to move my body in more free ways. And I suppose once you start breaking through to that, you tap into what you really have access to daily now, which is the full flow of your body.
Yeah, man. I mean, think about it. Like, if you were to just spend the rest of your life indoors, you would develop some serious issues. Not just mentally, but physically as well. Like, bro, we need to get sun. We need to get the vitamin D from the sun. Like, you can't supplement that well with vitamin D. Like, it just doesn't work as well as just going out into the sun and getting some vitamin D that way.
100%. I mean, just that there's proof in the pudding of that when you go to any major city. You go to New York, you go to London, and you look at people's faces, and everyone's just got like the line in their eyebrows, and they're so like wound up and like aggressive to each other. You're just thinking that this combination of factors that have kept people in this kind of cattle pen together is, it doesn't produce relaxed, happy people.
It doesn't, man. It makes people disgruntled, if that's a word.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, man, aside from that, man, there's been a lot of other things that I've started, but for like being more rooted in my body and being like more in that meditative state, like, these were the big ones. And I would also add Nofap into the mix because, bro, it's not a good thing if you're over here busting a nut every single day, or if you're watching pornography. Pornography itself is something that should be eliminated. I mean, bro, you know that. I think everybody knows that on a deep level. They're like, yo, I shouldn't be watching this. I shouldn't be watching these two people fucking and getting onto this. It just doesn't make sense, bro. And then, like, bro, if you get deeper into porn, like, that shit gets nasty. Like that, bro. There's some nasty ass shit in that shit, bro. I don't even want to speak about the stuff that I was getting into at one point, but man, like looking into that shit, that's fucking disgusting. And then the thing is, man, I always ask myself, this is how I really like broke away from porn. When you get into porn, you start to learn about what a cuck is.
Mm-hmm.
What a cuck is.
So a cuckold, someone who's like, I don't know the proper definition, but like someone who watches their wife screwing someone else.
Exactly. They're watching their girl get fucked, right? And the thing is, bro, we're still animals, okay? Keep that in mind. Meaning that when we see a woman, when we see a partner, someone that we can procreate with, it starts to release certain, I want to say maybe neurotransmitters or chemicals within our body, to where our body starts prepping itself and it gets ready. It's like, all right, we're going to do this shit. We're going to procreate. We're going to survive here. We're going to spread our seed.
Mm-hmm.
All right? You automatically see this woman as that. Okay, so you become aroused. You want to procreate. Now, when you're watching porn, bro, it's kind of hijacking this natural system where you're seeing this girl and you're like, oh, damn, like, okay, it's time. We're going to procreate. So you're almost like attaching yourself to this woman, and you're wanting to literally spread your seed to this woman, but here she is getting fucked by another dude, and you're getting off to that. So, like, I always thought to myself, man, like, porn literally makes people cucks. It's cucking the fuck out of everyone, man.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting point that I think I've never really seen addressed properly. Like, we have I did a podcast a few months ago on a client question that we got of someone who said that porn was basically like ruining his life, and he was depressed, and he was just in this cycle of porn and not going out and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, one of the big factors is, like, despite what you, as well as what you said about kind of getting desensitized to pleasure because it's always on tap and it's always not being then able to kind of speak to people in the real world, as well as the kind of the going deeper into the kind of perversions and like weird variants of porn that are available. But the other thing is, as you said, like, evolutionarily, if we are practicing the behavior of watching two people have sex with each other, and you're sat back, dick in hand, watching that going on, like, that's not... You
a cuck at that point, bro.
It's not... it doesn't seem like a healthy behavior to repeatedly instill in our minds and our behavior.
It destroys us, bro. It destroys you, not just on a mental and emotional level, but also on a physical and on a spiritual level. And like physical, because, bro, we obviously know what happens when you have an excess of dopamine, and then when you're over here releasing all your vital nutrients while busting a nut several times a day. But like on a spiritual level, man, like a cuck is someone who, bro, like they're just, I would go as far as to say that they're just broken internally, and like for them to be aroused by like another man literally taking their woman and spreading their seed into their woman, like, you gotta be broken, man. Like, there's gotta be something that's like, that's really fucked within you, bro. And like, for you to low-key be doing that while watching pornography, maybe you're not even aware of it, but for you to low-key be doing that, like, you are literally fucking yourself in the ass, or you're breaking yourself over time. And like, you're gonna get to a point where it's gonna hit you. You're gonna snap. You might be having sex one day and for some reason can't get it up. Or you might be having sex and you're just not that aroused to where you're enjoying the sex. You don't really enjoy it anymore. You don't have the connection with the girl anymore. You're over here looking at girls and you only see them as sex objects. And if I remember correctly, there's this one dude that said, if you look at a woman like a sex object, then you're looking at yourself like a sex object. If you treat someone like a or like if you treat someone like an object, then you're treating yourself like an object as well, which
Okay.
is pretty interesting.
I suppose because like what you're putting out into the world is just what's being reflected at any time.
Yeah, pretty much, man. I mean, it's like you treat someone like shit, you're probably gonna get treated like shit.
I see.
Hmm.
That is interesting. And so I suppose you're saying there's like that there's far-reaching implications beyond just like function and sensitivity to pleasure, but it's also about whether you can then maintain a connection with someone longer term. And you said there was some spiritual benefits to it as well. Do you feel like these kind of accumulate over time, or is it something that like is it kind of binary?
Well, so here's the thing, bro. A lot of people get spiritual benefits or spirituality in general kind of mixed up. They think that it's like this thing that'll accumulate over time, or they think it's this like metaphysical thing that like, oh, I'm gonna get this superpower if I do this or some shit like that. Honestly, man, like we're all spiritual beings. Like, you know, like if you think about it, like what the hell is keeping this body alive?
Yeah.
What is it? Can you answer that?
Depends on what level, I suppose you're asking.
So hold on, let me put my computer on charge. What is keeping your body functioning at this moment in time?
So like at the lowest level we've got like atomic movement and then cellular metabolism and then oxygenation of cells and tissues and organs functioning in synchrony. Is this what you?
But how is that all happening?
I don't know what you're getting at.
So what I'm trying to get at, man, is that our bodies are like cars. They're like vessels. And our spirit is the driver. It's like what's actually driving this car, this body, right? And this body doesn't last forever. And you could say, oh, well, it's energy as well. You know, energy is allowing the heart to pump, the brain to function, all the organs, everything, the cells to function to the best of their ability. But man, like what's utilizing the energy? What's creating the energy? That's something to think about. You know, but what I'm trying to get at, man, with the whole spirituality thing, not to complicate it, is that we're all spiritual. We're all on this spiritual journey. Like, for someone to say that they're spiritual and this person is not spiritual is kind of ignorant. You know, you're closing yourself off to the fact that, hey, we all are spiritual, whether you're on this spiritual journey. What'd you say?
Like that you can't not be. Like it's like saying it's like saying this person's physical or not physical. Like you have to be a physical thing.
Exactly.
It's just about whether you're in touch with that and whether that's something you cultivate actively or not.
Exactly, bro. So it's like you can't not be spiritual. You can't not be on your spiritual journey. Bro, we're all on this shit, whether we're aware of it or not. Some people might say, oh, well, I don't believe in that bullshit. It don't fucking matter if you believe in it. Like, you're still spiritual. You're still on the spiritual journey. Like, when you experience something, that's a spiritual experience. Bro, if I were to go out right now and I were to climb onto the top of this apartment roof, right, and I would just walk on the top of that roof, it's a physical experience, but it's also a spiritual experience. You want to know why? Because it's a high point. It's something that I'll look back and I'll remember.
Yeah, got you. And so I suppose then, like, we've got this combination of of things, like the series of like mostly physical inputs that have come together to bring your awareness more into your body and more and as well as the behavioral changes as well, like letting go of the things that were just kind of being accepted and mundane in your life and moving forward into something that is adding value to people through your channel and living your purpose and expressing yourself more truly as well. I suppose there was a couple more things as well, wasn't there? So there's the dietary stuff, like you said that you used to have some gut issues that you basically you went you went vegan for a while, and
I
then
did.
you
Vegan
went
for 3
carnivore.
years.
3 years.
3 years, bro. Death.
See, like the one thing that you can't, no matter what people say about you, you can't say that you're not committed to an experiment. Like,
Bro. Anytime I try something new, I go all in, bro. That's my personality. I'm an all in type dude.
I've not got the patience to do 3 years of veganism. Bloody hell.
Okay.
How did you feel as a vegan?
At first, I felt good because, I was coming from the standard American diet. So it's like there were subtle changes that were happening in my body. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, hey, this is it. This is it, chief. Like, I was real happy about it, And, like, obviously, when you start going into something new, the way that you think, you try to, like, rationalize everything that you're doing and try to, like, convince yourself that what you're doing is like the greatest thing in this world, bro. I used to have all these ideologies and all these things that I would talk to people about where it's like, man, it just felt good to talk about these things. Like, yeah, I'm a fucking vegan, bro. I don't eat animals. And like, bro, you talk to most vegans and that's how it is, man. They usually have these ideologies. Like you have the vegans that are like, they realize this and they also realize that everyone's different. Everyone functions better on different things and they're more accepting of that. Those are the humans, bro. Those are the real ones.
Those are the woke vegans. Most of the vegans I know are very vocal about the fact that they're vegan and will wait for any opportunity to tell you about it.
Bro, but the thing is like all these people are vegan and I'm gonna speak for myself as well. When I was vegan, it's like you're vegan, you stopped eating animals, good for you. But what the hell are you doing for these animals that you care so much about? You over here talking about this shit? Talking about it ain't gonna do shit. Like, unless you're over here telling me like, oh, well, I'm actually changing the rights of the animals to where they're getting treated better. I'm changing the way of how the animals are killed. So instead of like being killed with deadbolts, they're being killed in terms of like halal, where there's no cortisol released in the body of the animal whatsoever when the animal is killed during halal. And bro, like you should see it, bro. Like the way they do this shit, there's no force, no nothing, bro. Like they'll bring like a lamb. They'll put the lamb on the ground. The lamb at first will kind of like go crazy. I mean, like what's not gonna go crazy if it goes on its back, right? I mean, you put a chick on her back and she kind of starts going crazy at first, but bro, like they put this animal down on the ground. The animal kind of starts going crazy, and then they start reciting these like verses from the Quran, and bro, like they put the ears, like they cover the ears. They literally like hold the head of the lamb, and bro, they get to the point where like they'll have one little finger, bro, just like this, like one little finger, barely putting any pressure, just to keep the ear in place where it's covering the eye, where the lamb can't see anything. And the lamb is perfectly calm, bro. Perfectly still, submitted, just on the ground, just relaxed, just ready for anything. Right? And bro, they did it to like a 300-pound lamb. Like if it wanted to get up, it could have damn well gotten up. But like literally just one little finger. No pressure whatsoever. And the lamb was calm as hell. So it's like, yo, okay, if you're a vegan and you're doing things to change the situation of animals, then okay, I commend you. I take my hat off to you. I respect you. But if you're over here just saying, oh, hey, I don't eat animals, so I'm better than you.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's about looking at and it's an interesting point about halal as well, where it's like, if the point of it is to reinforce your own sense of identity and put yourself in the camp of like almost a religious group, by saying I follow this diet or whatever, or is it actually to improve animal welfare, and are you taking steps towards doing that in some way? 100%. I've got a family member who was he wasn't happy with the way that animals are slaughtered. He used to be a lecturer in a university, and he was like, you know what, I'm not happy with this, I'm going to go set up a farm. And he did that about 15 years ago, and now he's still running this farm. It's like a purely organic halal farm, where it's like he basically was like, I'm not happy with the standards that animals are kept in, and I don't trust any of the meat or the milk or anything that I buy, so I'm just going to do it properly myself, and then I know that it's definitely legit. And
I like that.
yeah, it's pretty cool. So like he's definitely like out of all the people that he's put his money where his mouth is, and he's been like, right, I'm gonna be that change.
That's what you got to do too. And another thing that I wanted to hit on here was like vegans, they don't want to eat animals. Like suddenly out of nowhere, or maybe it was something that they were taught from a beginning age, but they don't want to eat the animals and they don't want to eat meat. But it's like, bro, think about it. One, if there was an apocalypse and like all was to go to shit, if you were to stay vegan at that point, you're pretty much guaranteed death. Like natural selection, bro, you're definitely in the mix. You're gonna be gone real soon. And if I was in like a group, like this is just me throwing it out here, just like fucking around. But if there was an apocalypse, I would probably choose the group of vegans, man, because one, I would be able to get all the food. I would be able to keep the meat for myself. And then once the vegans start dropping, bro, I could just start cooking them up, bro.
They wouldn't eat each other.
Yeah, they wouldn't eat each other. They would look at me like a damn animal, but hey, I am an animal. We're all animals. You know, it's not unnatural for an animal to eat another animal. Now, yeah, people get into like the whole ethics and everything, but we have to understand that ethics is something that was created by us. It's a mental construct. Right now, is it bad what they're doing to the animals right now? Well, without a doubt, man, without a fucking doubt. And that's why I'm saying, like, if you really care about the animals, do something to change that. Do something to change the situation. Now, you're not going to get people to stop eating animals. You're not going to get the entire world to stop eating animals, and you're not going to get these factories to stop killing the animals. So the next best thing you can do is to increase the living situations and the way that they're actually processed. You know what I mean?
100% agree. I think this is the kind of problem with there seems to be a big wave, more so in the States, of people that are kind of piping up and complaining about certain ways that things are done in the world, or ways that people behave, or whatever. And it's like, it's almost like they're justified in having those complaints. But at the end of the day, there is how the world is, and there is how you'd like the world to be.
Exactly. And
when people constantly live at odds with this, then they're not, they're not making a change. They're not moving anything forward, and all it is it's an empty complaint. And so, until they can actually do something to improve that welfare, then they have no real right to complain. Like if you're just sitting and complaining about it, but there's no, not offering a solution. Like as you said, like people are going to continue to eat meat. You cannot change the eating habits of billions of people. So,
exactly,
like rather than kind of just be holier than thou and preach to people, then it's like, right, well, you've got to recognize that and see what else you can do to further that cause.
Yeah, and check this, bro. Like a lot of vegans will pull the spiritual card, and they'll say that these animals are being killed, and it's their energy, energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's only transferred, and they have this negative energy that they're being killed with. So you're taking in that negative energy. And bro, like this is something that I used to preach myself, right? But it's like, for them to say that someone who eats meat is not spiritual is so stupid, bro. It's like a religious person saying, let's say a Christian who believes in Jesus, they accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior, and they look at someone who's not a Christian. Let's say someone who's like lives in the buttfuck nowhere. They don't know about these things. They don't know about religion, right? And they look at this person. They're like, oh, this person's going to hell. They don't believe in Jesus. Bro, what? I don't think it's up to you to decide that. So it's like,
if you're claiming that Jesus is so compassionate, like would Jesus condemn someone to hell who has never heard of him?
Exactly. Bro, that's a whole nother topic though. But man, I'm telling you right now, like when it comes to that shit, bro, like I think most people that are vegan, they have it twisted, bro. And when I was vegan myself, I had it twisted. And the thing is, man, like your ideologies get so twisted on this veganism thing that you become in denial of what's actually occurring within your body. So it's like people Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people who can actually function on veganism. Right? Their body can adapt to this shit. And the reason I say this, remember I was telling you about blood types and how I'm like really into the whole blood types and everything. Bro, there's a blood type that like meat is just something that they shouldn't consume. That's basically vegetarian and veganism. Those are the people that can thrive on the veganism and the vegetarian, right? But then there's a blood type where it's like, yo, meat is the best thing that they can consume. Like their body has such high levels of stomach acid that they literally digest fats and proteins the best out of any blood type. And that's blood type O. So O positive or O negative. Mm-hmm. Now, bro, on a side note, I'm fucking O positive. And keep in mind, I went to Carnivore, and like I had no idea, bro. Carnivore is pretty much just fats and protein. Here I am going on Carnivore, feeling the best that I've ever felt in my life. And then I find this research here saying, hey, O blood type does best on meat. Obviously, you can include vegetables and stuff like that.
So you found that out afterwards?
Yeah, I found that out afterwards. I was like, what the fuck?
So far, I think we've sufficiently pissed off the vegans. I think I can see the comments coming in with that. Ex-vegan speaks out against veganism as a... and then just for further salt in the wound, you're also saying that you've now gone full carnivore.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say I'm full carnivore, man, because like even that's like a cult in itself. I would say like, man, I eat what works for me. So primarily I eat meat, but sometimes I eat vegetables. Sometimes I eat some macadamia nuts. Sometimes some dark chocolate. Maybe sometimes I might even cheat and have some Indian food, boy.
So did you do full? You went full carnivore for like, was it 2 months or something, and then?
Yeah, I want to say about 2.5. Two and a half.
And then you've like reintroduced other forms of like fats and proteins and things over the
sporadically. Right. So I don't like introduce it and then keep it as an everyday thing. I'll eat macadamia nuts like maybe once a week, or like I'll have some dark chocolate maybe once a week. I'll cheat maybe like once a month, or actually I haven't even cheated yet, to be honest.
Cool.
So yeah, but we were talking about veganism. And so the thing is, a lot of people aren't made for this. A lot of people can't handle this, and it's crazy. Like when I was talking about the whole blood types and how I was like getting into that. Before I got into that, I was already having this realization that we all developed in different parts of this world, so we all basically evolved to accept different things. Like some people maybe evolved to handle meat better. Some people evolve to handle vegetables better. Some people evolve to be able to handle carbs better, bro. Like people don't realize that not everyone in this world is actually able to utilize carbs to the best of their ability. And like they would know this if they would have dropped their carbs down to the 50-gram range. Mm-hmm. You heard about the keto and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, so I've done that for a while, and it was like, for me, it was pretty grim. Like my training suffered and mood was low, but when you reintroduce the carbs, because I was on a cyclical keto, so every 7 to 10 days I would have a big carb refeed, and it's like you're on drugs. Like when you reintroduce those carbs on one night, it's ridiculous. Like the neurochemical.
Now, how long did you do the keto? That's what I want to ask.
So this was years ago, but I did a 12-day initial keto setting, and then every 7 days from that point I would do
the refeed.
The refeed, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think that I don't think you gave your body enough time for the adaptation period. But bro, like it's not for everyone. I'll be 100% honest and say that. But what I'm trying to get at with all this is that my body wasn't made for a vegan, vegetarian type thing, right? And like as I was going through the vegan, the first few months, like my body was already letting me know, hey, buddy, this ain't it. Mm-hmm. We don't want this. We need something else.
But your mind is telling you, like, you know what, I've got to double down on this veganism thing.
Bro, and like I said, bro, I got the all-in personality, so it's like I'm extreme with it. When I was a kid, I'm not religious at the moment. I guess you could say spiritual, right? How we were talking about, like we're all spiritual, whether you say you're spiritual or not. But I used to be told like you're either hot or cold. Right? Like if you're lukewarm, I'm gonna spit you out. This was something that was found in the Bible,
Yeah.
and that's how I've been my entire life. It's like, okay, I'm either hot or cold. I'm either all in or all out. I'm not gonna do this like dipping my toe in the water, seeing what's the temperature and shit like that. But I'm diving in that bitch.
I
Right?
love
So,
that though, because it means
yeah,
that you then get the full essence of whatever you're trying to do, and then after you've done it, you can be like, okay, I got these benefits. How can I then pull back and still get some of those benefits? If I in the future.
exactly.
So we've covered the spectrum here. We've covered cold showers, veganism, carnivore, nofap, meditation, primal scream, bioenergetics. Is there anything to kind of pull this all together that you would recommend someone who is maybe listening to this and thinking like, whoa, this, like, I've not tried any of these things, but I'm after this, result. What would you recommend for someone who's listening?
Start with one thing. There's so much that like you want to go and do everything, but just start with one thing. Like if your life is really where it's at and like you want to change, one thing will be enough to trigger the chain of events. Like it could be something as simple as like getting to sleep on time and creating that sleep schedule. Like you won't even realize it, but like if you can create a sleep schedule and you can get good quality sleep every single night, like that will reduce the mood swings that you have. It'll reduce the depression and the anxiety and all this shit that you might feel. And it'll give you more energy as well. Like people don't realize the simple things, how they can really affect you so critically.
Yeah.
But yeah, just start with something. Start with one thing.
Get
and then
sleep
go
under
from there.
control. Start with something, and then layer things on as you get proficiency with each thing.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, getting to sleep on time. That could be the thing that you start with.
I think, like, and I'm sure you'd agree with this, which is like, before you start any of these things, if you're doing something that is actively detrimental, stop that first.
Yeah, this is true. So, like, if someone's watching pornography, then hey, stop watching pornography. You know?
Yeah. If they're drinking themselves to sleep every night, stop that. If you're smoking up
Yeah.
the chimney, stop. Get yourself just to baseline first, and then start to develop these. So
Yeah.
Aanghel
And
has
on
been,
on a side note, before
yeah,
you continue, I was gonna say that if someone does have something like that, where like they have to really overcome it, I see that as like a beautiful opportunity, right? Because I see it like personally, I feel that as a man we should be tested, but shit, man, as women should be tested as well. So it's like when you have this, or not, but fuck the genders, let's just say humans, right? Humans should be tested. You should not ask for an easy life. You should ask for the strength to endure a difficult one. I think Bruce Lee said that shit. But when you have something that you really have to overcome, bro, like I think that's beautiful because it's like, yo, that's it. That's your gate. That's your path right there. You go down that and you're going to see some beautiful things once you get past that shit. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I love that shit, bro. I love when I have like something really tough and like difficult in my path and I have to get past that shit.
Because on the other side of that is opening.
Exactly,
Beauty,
bro.
yeah, 100%.
Exactly.
Aanghel, it's been an absolute pleasure being on the podcast with you. I'm so glad that we could finally do this. I know it was well overdue. I promised this about a year ago and then got caught up.
Yeah.
So I should say as well, I have been on Aangel's Patreon for a while now as well. There's exclusive content on there. There's Q&As. You can always interact with him as well. So any questions that you have about specifics or any of the stuff that we've just discussed, there is reams of content about going deep into diet, carnivore, nofap, meditation, cold showers, any of that stuff, and really how to integrate those into your life, as well as general stuff as well, so habit building, sleep, those kind of things too. So if you're interested in more, if you like what you've heard so far, then how can we find out more about you, Aanghel?
All right, bro. So I have Patreon. Now, Patreon is kind of like YouTube, but in the sense that I have no filter. I can say whatever I want. I can do whatever I want and not get flagged, not get demonetized, and not have my videos get taken down. Right. So, and I definitely go way deeper into topics. You know, I found that with YouTube, most people that come across my videos, like some of them are more capable of like, you know, getting those thought processes going and like really diving deep into these concepts. But a lot of other people, they're kind of on that unconscious level, and they just can't handle too deep of topics. Which, I mean, you can see, like, if you make a video too long, it's like people won't even watch the entire video because their attention span is so shit. Mm-hmm. So if your attention span is so shit, then I can't assume that you're gonna be able to dive deep into what it is that I'm speaking about. So then I save that shit for the Patreon. I have, like you said, the live Q&As. I've also added this thing where every single month I choose a random patron and I do a Skype session with them. So it's kind of like an extra way to give back to the people who are supporting on Patreon. And as far as Patreon goes, man, it ain't much. Like, you can pretty much get to, if you want to do the live Q&As and have the access to being picked, or the drawing that I do every month, it's only $1 a month. If you wanted to have access to the raw video series that I do on Patreon, as well as everything else, that's just $5 a month. It's not much. I consider it like a way for people to support the channel and also get even more in-depth content. And aside from Patreon, like if someone were to want to do coaching or something like that, I have my own website, Aanghel.com. You can put the typing, because I'm not gonna
we're
gonna say the letter.
Stick all the links in the description, and we'll link to your YouTube channel too.
Yeah, man. But that's it, man. That's how people get a hold of me. And if you're just trying to ask a question or some shit, man, I got Instagram, I got YouTube. I'm pretty active. I see pretty much almost everything. So, you know, if someone reaches out to me that way, I can definitely reach back.
That's it, man. Well, if you like what you've heard, check out Aanghel on YouTube first, and then go through the Patreon, Instagram, and all that stuff. This man is legit. Aanghel, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, boy.
All right, we'll speak to you soon.
Take care, brother.